So good morning everyone. I'm Ionuel Garcia and I'm going to present about array and array list and their examples later. Also their differences. So array is a fixed length data structure whereas array list is a variable length. So here we cannot change length of array once created in Java but in array list we can. So we cannot also store primitives in array list while in array it can contain both primitives and objects. While in array list, it can only store objects. Then, uh, in terms of performance, we have the array and array list, wherein array tends to perform faster than array list because array list tend to uh, overlap the data from the before data to the present data or the before and after, or it overlaps from one data to another. Next is we have an example of array and array list. So I'm using BlueJ as to program JavaScript. First is the array list. So here we have the usual coding, which is import Java util print public class array list example, in which this is the class name and public static void. This is to start the program. Without this, we cannot run the program and it will be useless. So first is to I wanted to print is the real purpose of this program. So I inputted system.out.println that this array list prints odd numbers between 1.0 to 20.0. Why do I have 1.0 and 20.0? Because of float. So I used float so that the program will tend to print an additional decimal, which is the point 0, and not only 1 but we have 1.0. So list less than float greater than list is equal to new array list less than float greater than float. So we have these datas in which list that add 1f. So it means that the program will have a list of 1, 1.0, 3.0, 5.0, 7.0, and so on. 1.0 because we have f here, which stands for float. And as I stated earlier, this tends to print an additional decimal. So we have here a for condition in which if the data is not on the list, then the program will not print its data. So it means that the program will just print what's on the list, which is this one, 3, 5, 7, all the odd numbers. So once we compiled, then we run it. This is the output. So as you can see, the which is the or which what tells what the program is all about. So this array list prints odd numbers between 1.0 to 20.0. So once we have this, the data, which is the list, will print only all the odd numbers, which is 1.0, 3.0, 5.0, and so on. So next is we have array. So here, I made a program in which the program tends to ask the user for a number of columns and number of rows, and after this, the user uh, will input certain numbers that is in his favor, which is any number, and this will print on the number of rows and columns that he or she inputted. So import Java util in which the program will ask the user for a certain input. So later on, public class array. So name of the class is array, public static void main. So int m and ij, we have four variables in which will be used later. So m and n will be used for the number of rows and number of columns. I and j will be used for the numbers that the user inputted later, and will base it on the rows and columns. So scanner input, new scanner system. So first it will print out a enter the number of rows. M is equal to input next ln. So the variable m is for the rows, and we have also n, which is the number of columns. So system that out that print enter the number of columns, where n is equal to input that next int close open parenthesis. So here we have int array double close open bracket equals to new int m and n. So once we have this, m and n will now connect to the I and j variable. So we have now system that out at println. In this part of, or in this step of the program tends to ask for the numbers that the user wants. So for we have a for condition in which I is equals to 0, where I is less than m, I increment in which when the first variable is inputted, it will add +1 and +1 and so on. So it is increasing, wherein I is based on the variable m, which is the rows. Then for j is equals as the same. J is equal to 0, j is less than n, j increment. So array I and j equal to input that next int. So once the numbers are inputted, now the program will now print your numbers are, and it will print uh, the numbers that the user wants or inputted in the number of rows and columns. So once we compile it, then we run it. So enter the number of columns. Let's say I want 4 rows and 4 columns. So since we have 4 rows and 4 columns, we have to input 16 datas. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32. And there we have it. Since you inputted, since I inputted 4 rows and 4 columns, we have 4 columns and 4 rows, and the numbers are inputted in that 4 by 4 datas. So that's it for array and array list. Once again, array is a fixed length data structure, whereas array list is a variable length, and that array list to uh, tends to input only or store only objects, but array can contain both primitives and objects in Java. So once again, I'm Ionuel Garcia from BSECE second year, and that's it for my tutorial. Thank you.